Hi there, welcome to lecture 15 of Machine Learning from Data, where we're going to be reflecting on what we have done so far and plotting our strategy forward. Now it's going to be a very relaxing lecture. We're even going to have a Zen moment, a little bit of meditation, so it's going to be great. Now, in order to sort of start the ball rolling on reflecting on what we have done so far, let's recap what we did last lecture. Okay, last lecture is a fairly important lecture, although not a very mathematical lecture, that condensed all the foundations into 3 learning principles, Occam's razor. So, be careful in how you select your learning model. Simpler is better. More importantly, the data must have a chance to win. The data must have a chance to falsify your hypothesis set, otherwise you cannot learn. Okay? And so we talked about this, this axiom of falsifiability. There's no point doing experiments if those experiments cannot falsify the theory. The theory being that you've selected a hypothesis set which is a good representation of the target function f. Okay? Now, in this example, scientist 1, who goes and collects 2 data points to verify whether the fit is linear, is not falsifiable. It's a pointless experiment. He generates no evidence for the theory. Okay. So, Occam's razor, simpler hypothesis set is better, or more generally, make sure that the data has a sort of a sporting chance, has a chance to win, has a chance to defeat you. If not, you cannot learn. Okay. Then we talked about sampling bias. So, now that we've selected a hypothesis set, how do you go and get data to learn from? Okay, and the basic idea here is, related to the bin model. When you sample from a bin, you can only make statements about the bin you sampled from. Okay, or make sure that your training data and your testing data come from the same distribution. And if not, all bets are off. There's no, maybe you're almost okay, maybe you're not almost okay. It can depend very drastically on the situation, on the nature of the sampling bias. We have no theory there, and usually it's a total disaster. And the example of this was the Dewey versus Truman, election, where sampling bias led to a headline that's going to plague the Chicago Tribune for the rest of its existence, basically. Okay, so now you've selected your hypothesis set. That's before you see the data. You've collected the data and avoided sampling bias. Now, how do you handle the data? You must avoid data snooping. Okay. Now, as a high-level principle, there's a path that you take. So you from data to final hypothesis, and along this path, all kinds of choices can be made, and you have to pay a price. You have to account for every choice that is made. And it doesn't matter if those choices were made by different people over a decade, or by you in one day, or by several friends sitting in different offices, and then the supervisor picks one of them. Okay, that picking of one of them is a choice, and then each of the friends might have done various things. Okay, so going from data to final hypothesis, choices are made. You have to account for every choice. And if the only choice that is made in going from data to final hypothesis is the selection of the final hypothesis from your fixed hypothesis set H, then we know how to account for that choice. Okay, that choice can be the price of that choice is governed by this VC error bar, basically related to the VC dimension of the hypothesis set. Now, if other subtle choices are made, for example, let me try lines. Oh, okay, things are okay, so I don't need to try circles. In there is a subtle choice, the choice not to try circles. And even a choice not to do something is a choice, and you have to pay the price for that choice. Okay, so Occam's razor, simpler hypothesis set is better. Sampling bias, collect your data carefully. Data snooping, handle your data carefully. Okay, now, let's have our Zen moment. Now, to fully embrace the Zen moment, you have to close your eyes and completely immerse yourself in the scenario. Okay, so let's all close our eyes, and I'm going to now tell you, what's the scenario. Okay, so you're driving your car, your eyes are closed, you're calm, you're driving your car. It's a cool day, it's 70s out there. You're driving your car, and in front of you is an 18-wheeler, and it's a little bit rainy, and there's mud on the road, and so on and so forth. Okay, you're calmly driving along. All of a sudden, now eyes closed. All of a sudden, now imagine this scenario. You're driving, it's raining, your windshield wipers are on, there's a 18-wheeler in front of you, and all of a sudden, from the wheels of the 18-wheeler splash this huge pile of mud, and that whole pile of mud lands, on your windscreen, clogging it, the whole thing up, clogging up your wipers, and, what you can see in front of you is just mud, nothing else, mud. Okay. So your entire front windscreen is covered with mud. So I hope you're feeling this. Okay. Now, you're in trouble because you're going at something like 40, 50 miles per hour, maybe even 60 miles per hour, who knows, okay? And your entire front view has been blocked. But you do have at your disposal your rear view mirrors. You've got two wing mirrors and you've got your rear view mirrors, so you can look at those mirrors and you can see the road behind you. In fact, you can see even the traffic and how the road behind you is curving, maybe curving a little bit this way, curving a little bit that way. Okay, so are you all with me? So eyes are closed. Now, you cannot just stop on the road. Someone's going to slam into you. So you have to slowly navigate your way to a safe situation. Okay, and all you can do is look in your rear view mirrors. Okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to survive this traumatic episode? Okay. So let's see. You have no choice. So you have to use the rear view mirrors as sort of a guide to sort of navigate your way slowly, maybe slowly decelerating and coming to a stop, on the shoulder or left or right shoulder. Okay. But the important thing here is that you cannot see in front. Now, I hope you're in this situation. You can feel the rain pounding on the car, the mud in front of you, entire front view is obscured, and all you can do is use your rear view mirrors to drive forward. Okay, let's pause for a few seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now open your eyes. What the heck does this have to do with machine learning? But I want to impress on you that machine learning is not just something you just do for the heck of it. Okay, you download some package and do this and do that and so on and so forth. Okay. I hope in that Zen moment you were overcome with fear. Okay. How am I going to drive forward while only being able to look backwards? Fear should have overcome every emotion, every bone in your body. Okay. And that is the sort of approach that you should take to a machine learning problem. Because you can think of what you see in the rear view mirror as your past, as your data. You can think of what you have to, predict. What you're you can think of, what's going on in front of you as what you have to predict of the future. And you have to use your past, i.e. the data, to predict, the future, i.e. the test point. Okay. So machine learning is not just, one of these things you do when you wake up in the morning like brushing your teeth. It's a very scary exercise. It's basically trying to drive forward while looking backwards in your rearview mirror. Okay. And now you can try to think, when is this going to succeed? When is it going? How am I going to be able to do this? How am I going to be able to navigate the forward road, looking only at the backward road? And you can think about, so for example, if you were in New York City, odds are it's not going to work. You can't see forward, you're looking backwards, and you'll immediately, land yourself in the middle of an intersection. You can think of that as a very complex, environment, a very complex target function. Okay, so if you're trying to look backwards and walk forwards, it's much easier to do that in a benign setting, in a smooth setting, in a non-complex setting. Okay. Although more data you have behind you to sort of, understand how roads curve and so on and so forth, and to build an idea of what's the slope and what's the, curvature, etc., the better off you are. Okay. And so on and so forth. You can sort of try to think, wow, this is a really scary setup, driving forward while only being able to look in your rearview mirror. I don't advise anybody to do this at home, but what I do advise is to have that same level of alertness that you would need when you approach a machine learning problem, because we are asking you to do exactly the same thing. We're asking you to look backwards and drive forwards, backwards being your data, forwards being your test point, your E out. Just like in the driving experiment. Okay. The only thing you care about is that you navigate safely out of that scenario. Okay. You don't care that you are able to model with zero in-sample error what's going on behind you. What you care about is what's coming in the future. And that's the same setup of the machine learning problem. You can look backwards, but you have to move forwards. You have to predict. You have to get E out low. Okay, so that's our Zen moment for the course. Okay. I don't want you to take a machine learning problem for granted. Machine learning is a very scary endeavor.